What if the Fantastic Four ship we saw wasn't carrying heroes at all, but the seeds of the greatest betrayal the multiverse has ever faced? The moment I saw that post-credit scene in Thunderbolts, something felt off. Like Marvel was deliberately letting us believe the easiest answer while hiding something far darker in plain sight. Everyone immediately jumped to Earth 838, to familiar faces, to Reed Richards searching for help, but I started connecting the dots and realized this ship wasn't about the Fantastic Four at all. It was about timing, manipulation, and a very specific kind of fear. A fear that only one mind in the multiverse truly understands. That scene wasn't a teaser, it was a warning. A warning that Doomsday isn't just a battle of strength, but a battle of belief. Because inside that ship, according to the latest whispers, aren't the heroes we expected. Inside are Dr. Doom, Steve Rogers, and Thor. And once you accept that possibility, the entire future of the MCU suddenly rearranges itself. Every teaser, every prayer, every emotional beat starts pointing toward a single terrifying idea. Someone is lying. Someone is pulling strings. And the Avengers are about to be turned against the one being who might actually be holding reality together. This is the kind of twist that doesn't shout immediately. It waits patiently, letting assumptions grow comfortable before ripping the ground away and forcing us to question everything we thought we understood about this universe now. When I started digging deeper into why Dr. Doom would even need a ship like that, the answer became disturbingly clear. Doom doesn't conquer worlds by force first, he conquers trust. And his most dangerous weapon isn't armor or magic. It's the face he wears. A face that belongs to Tony Stark. Imagine how easily Doom could walk into the emotional blind spots of the Avengers wearing the man they loved, followed, and failed to save. To them, Loki is still the god of mischief, the architect of New York's destruction, the villain who never truly paid for his crimes. They don't know about his redemption, his sacrifice, or his role as the multiverse's silent guardian. Doom knows this. He exploits it. With Tony's face, he doesn't need evidence, only implication. A few carefully chosen words, a familiar voice expressing concern, and suddenly old wounds reopen. I think Doom's plan was never to fight the Avengers directly. It was to aim them like a weapon. Turn their grief into momentum. Turn their memories into motivation. And when the name Loki finally enters the conversation, Doom won't even have to lie much. He'll simply let the Avengers fill in the gaps themselves. Fear does the rest. That's how wars really start in the MCU. Not with explosions, but with stories people are already prepared to believe. That realization hit me hard. Because it means Doomsday isn't about power levels, but about who controls the narrative when everything begins to fall apart. Now here's where Steve Rogers becomes the emotional key to everything. I don't think Doom approaches Thor first. That would never work. Thor doesn't trust easily anymore, not after losing almost everyone he ever loved. Doom knows the only way to reach Thor is through the one man Thor has always believed in without question. Steve, Captain America, the soldier, the symbol. If Doom goes to Steve and tells him that Loki is sitting on a throne beyond time, destabilizing the multiverse, Steve would listen. Not because he's gullible, but because Steve understands responsibility. He understands sacrifice. And now more than ever, he understands fear. Steve has a family, Peggy, a child, a life he chose over the battlefield. So when Doom frames this as a threat that could erase that life entirely, Steve doesn't need much convincing. Loki has always been dangerous in their eyes. Steve would believe that stopping him is the right thing to do. I think that's why Doom recruits Steve first. Once Steve is on board, the rest fall like dominoes. Because if Steve Rogers believes something needs to be done, people follow. They always have. That's not manipulation through lies. That's manipulation through trust, and Doom is terrifyingly good at that. With Steve at his side, Doom's next move becomes almost effortless. Thor. If Doom showed up alone, even with Tony's face, Thor would hesitate. He would ask questions. He would feel that something is wrong. But Steve changes the equation completely. Steve's presence is reassurance. Steve's agreement is validation. If Steve says Loki must be stopped, Thor won't debate it. He'll prepare for war. And that's where the Thor teaser suddenly takes on a completely different meaning. When Thor asks Odin for strength to fight one more enemy, everyone assumes he's talking about Doom. But what if he isn't? What if Thor is praying for the strength to face his own brother? Doom never has to say Loki's name immediately. He just has to describe a being sitting above time, watching everything, controlling fate. Someone like Kang. Someone like a god. Thor's fear wouldn't come from hatred, but from love. From the knowledge that if this enemy is truly that powerful, then love, his daughter, is in danger. And Thor has always been at his most dangerous when his family is threatened. Doom understands this. He lets Thor reach the conclusion himself. That way, the decision feels righteous, not forced. That's how Doom wins without swinging a single punch. This is where Marvel's history of misdirection becomes impossible to ignore. I've seen this trick before. We all have. Trailers lie. Teasers mislead. Entire scenes are edited to create emotions that never actually exist in the final film. Infinity War did it perfectly. Conversations that never happened. Reactions stitched together to tell a false story. I think Doomsday is doing the same thing, but on a much larger scale. Those 4 teasers we've seen aren't telling us the truth. They're showing us a version of events designed to make us assume Doom is the obvious villain. But what if Doom is presenting himself as the solution? What if Loki is framed as the ultimate threat? I started noticing how carefully certain details are hidden. Faces removed. Context stripped away. CGI masking intentions. There are moments in those teasers that feel incomplete, like something has been erased on purpose. And that's exactly how Doom operates. He doesn't just manipulate characters. He manipulates perspective. Even ours. That's why this story feels so unsettling. Because the enemy might not be the one standing in front of us, but the one we're being told to fear. Another detail people are overlooking is how massive Steve Rogers' role is shaping up to be. This isn't a cameo. This isn't a goodbye wave. The Russo brothers themselves have said Steve's story has always been central to the MCU. And they're right. From the first Avengers movie to Endgame, Steve was the moral compass, the strategist, the leader. Even in Civil War, when everything fractured, it was Steve who decided what needed to be done, even when it hurt. You don't just remove a character like that from the narrative. Doomsday needs Steve, not as Captain America, but as the man who made a choice that broke time itself. Steve staying with Peggy wasn't a small decision. It was a selfish one, even if it was understandable. And I think that decision caused more damage to the multiverse than anything else we've seen. More than the time heist. More than Strange's reckless travels. More than Wanda's grief. Steve created a timeline that wasn't supposed to exist. And Doom knows it. That's why Doom is after Steve. Not just to use him, but because Steve is the origin of the chaos Doom now inhabits. Here's the part that really changed how I see everything. We all assume Steve returned the Infinity Stones exactly where they belonged. But what if he didn't? What if, in that quiet life with Peggy, Steve made choices he thought were harmless? What if he used the stones even once to protect what he loved? We've seen heroes break rules before. The Ancient One warned Bruce. He ignored her. Tony warned against time travel. They did it anyway. Smart Hulk warned Steve not to stay. He stayed. Heroes cross lines when emotions are involved. Steve isn't immune to that. And if Steve used the stones, or kept one, or altered a moment that should have remained untouched, the consequences would be catastrophic. An incursion. A broken reality. A multiverse screaming for correction. And who suffers most in a broken reality? Someone like Doom. Someone who understands order, control, and consequence. That's why this feels personal. Doom isn't just trying to conquer. He's trying to fix something that should never have been broken. And the man responsible is the same man everyone trusts the most. This also explains why Loki is such a convenient target. Loki sits at the center of the multiverse, holding timelines together. From the outside, that looks like control, like tyranny, like domination. Doom doesn't need to invent lies about Loki. He just needs to reframe the truth. To the Avengers, Loki has always been a villain playing God. So when Doom suggests that Loki is disrupting reality, no one questions it. No one asks if Loki is actually preventing something worse. And that's the tragedy of it. Loki finally becomes the hero no one believes in. Again. Steve and Loki's reunion, which we know is coming, won't be heroic. It will be painful. Two men who sacrificed everything, standing on opposite sides of a misunderstanding that could destroy existence. That's real drama. That's the kind of emotional weight Marvel has been building toward for years. Not a simple good versus evil story, but a collision of good intentions with disastrous consequences. And while all of this is unfolding, Sam Wilson is standing in the shadow of legends. I'll be honest, if Doomsday wants to truly cement Sam as Captain America, it can't be easy. It can't be a speech. It can't be a convenient win. It has to hurt. It has to cost something. Brave New World showed us what happens when stakes feel fake. Doomsday can't repeat that mistake. Sam needs a moment where he stands alone, where he makes a decision Steve never could, where he proves that leadership isn't about serum or symbols, but about choice. Only then will the torch truly pass. And that's why Steve's role doesn't undermine Sam. It challenges him, forces him to rise, forces him to define himself not as the next Captain America, but as his own kind of hero. That's how legacies should work. Not by replacement, but by evolution. When I step back and look at everything together, the ship, Doom, Steve, Thor, Loki, the stones, the teasers, it all forms one chilling picture. Doomsday isn't about stopping a villain. It's about realizing we may already be on the wrong side. Doom is the catalyst. Steve is the cause. Loki is the consequence. And the Avengers are the weapon pointed at the heart of reality. That's why this story feels bigger than anything Marvel has attempted before. Because it asks a terrifying question. What if the end of the world doesn't come from hatred, but from love, fear, and the choices our heroes made when no one was watching? That's the kind of story that lingers. That's the kind of story that hurts. And that's why I can't stop thinking about what's really inside that ship. If this breakdown got you thinking, don't forget to like, share it with another Marvel fan, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. The first thing I remember is the heat. Not the warm glow of a fading life. Not the soft warmth of a hero's final breath, but a heat that felt alive. A heat that breathed. A heat that wanted me. And before I dive into why that moment changes everything you think you know about Tony Stark, the Avengers, and the future of the multiverse, let me ask you something. What if the greatest sacrifice in Marvel history didn't end with peace, but with punishment? What if the man who saved trillions was sentenced to something far worse than death? And what if the hero we buried didn't stay a hero at all? Welcome back to MovieCast, everyone. I'm your host, Liam Harrison, and today, I want to take you deep into a theory that rewrites Tony Stark's ending, reshapes Dr. Doom's origins, and pushes the Marvel multiverse toward a future darker than anything we've ever imagined. Because in this story, Tony doesn't rest. He doesn't drift into the light. He opens his eyes and hell is waiting for him. Not metaphorical hell, not symbolic hell. The real thing. Fire beneath his feet, flames in the sky, and a presence approaching him from the shadows. A towering figure who speaks with the confidence of someone who has owned souls for centuries. And when that voice calls him Iron Man, when it welcomes him to its domain, Tony realizes he is somewhere no hero should ever end up. But what comes next, how Tony responds, how fear twists into rage, how doom is born, that's the part no one sees coming. And today I'm breaking it all down, piece by terrifying piece. When Tony first stands in that infernal wasteland, he does what Tony always does. He tries to rationalize the irrational. He tries to figure out the impossible. He tries to science his way out of hell. But the voice that speaks to him isn't interested in science. It's interested in power. It tells Tony a truth that freezes even his rebuilt heart. The Infinity Stones came with a price. Wielding them wasn't just an act of sacrifice, it was a spiritual violation, a cosmic trespass. By using them, Tony bound his soul to forces older than gods. Demons who saw the snap as an invitation, a door unlocked. Tony shakes his head. He insists he died a hero. He saved the universe. But the figure laughs. Heroism doesn't matter here. Consequences do. And then it shows him visions. Horrific, twisted visions of Pepper and Morgan trapped in burning ruins, screaming for him. Visions of Riri Williams rising not as the next Iron Man, but as someone furious at being compared to Tony Stark, someone who vows to erase his legacy. Tony begs for the images to stop, insists they aren't real, but the figure only tells him they can become real. And if Tony wants to save the people he loves, if he wants a second chance, he has to make a deal. Tony doesn't think. He doesn't negotiate. He just says yes. He takes the hand of the figure, and an ancient power surges into him, twisting his soul, reshaping his armor, burning away his humanity. Iron Man dies, and Dr. Doom rises. But Doom does not obey. Doom kneels to no one. Even hell itself cannot command him. And while Tony, or what's left of him, begins to reshape himself into something darker, the world above keeps moving. Steve Rogers, living quietly with Peggy, hears a knock at his door. Loki appears, panicked, telling Steve that Doom is coming, that this is not the Tony he knew, that this is a force even he cannot manipulate. Steve barely has time to respond before Doom arrives. Loki hides in Steve's form while Steve slips away, just long enough to witness the truth. This armored figure isn't Iron Man resurrected. It's someone colder, someone sharpened into a weapon by pain and betrayal. Doom declares that Steve has destabilized the multiverse, that his reunion with Peggy caused an inversion of timelines. And when Loki drops the disguise, Doom attacks with a fury that shakes the house off its foundation. Steve races to a hidden device, a time travel machine, and escapes into another universe. One where Logan, Gambit, and Deadpool exist. But that escape, it only confirms Doom's fears. If timelines can merge, if universes can intertwine, then everything is vulnerable. Everything is breakable. And Doom decides he will be the one to control what comes next. Back on Earth, Morgan Stark searches through the ruins of her father's legacy. She finds a secret recording, Tony's message for the daughter he thought he'd never see again. It's gentle, hopeful, filled with belief in her future. It reminds her that she was always his greatest creation. Not the suits, not the tech, not the arc reactor. Morgan breaks down. Pepper holds her close, and for just a moment, Tony Stark feels alive again. But somewhere else, Doom is tearing apart reality, universe by universe. Loki realizes Doom's plan. Eliminate every hero, erase every threat, remake the multiverse in his image. So Loki decides to do what he once swore he'd never do, gather a team. His first recruit is Spider-Man. Peter is adrift, haunted by memories no one else remembers. Loki finds him alone, lost, asking why a god of mischief would seek him out. But Loki simply says, because you're a hero, even when you think you're not. And Peter, remembering Tony's belief in him, joins instantly. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange senses incursions bubbling through reality. He chases Steve Rogers through multiversal fractures, only to witness Doom murder Peggy in an instant. Doom crushes Strange with one hand, dismissing him like an insect. Strange barely escapes. But he knows he needs help. Someone as ruthless and powerful as Doom. So he turns to Thanos. The Mad Titan laughs when he sees Strange, mocking the universe for falling apart exactly as he predicted. But when Strange tells him Doom is consuming reality, Thanos' grin fades. Doom defeated him once. Thanos will not allow it again. He joins Strange, not out of mercy, but out of pride. A pride dark enough to become a weapon. And while alliances form in the shadows, Doom continues his crusade. His next target is Captain Marvel. She confronts him boldly, claiming she saved the universe from Thanos. But Doom counters, Tony saved it. Tony died for it. And what has she sacrificed? He ages her with a gesture, reducing the most powerful Avenger to dust. Riri Williams tries to challenge him next, claiming Tony's legacy as her own. Doom laughs. Her suit fails. Her dimension collapses around her. She vanishes in an instant. Thor and Loki reunite, forced into a fragile brotherhood against a threat greater than either god could face alone. But Doom, enraged by resistance, dives deeper into the multiverse. He tears through worlds like tissue paper. He slaughters 5 Guardians standing between him and Steve's new universe. He vows to hunt Rogers anywhere he runs. And as chaos spreads, the X-Men find Steve Rogers stumbling into their reality, carrying a device infused with TVA tech capable of merging universes. He tells them Doom will end everything unless they act. Monica Rambeau arrives, shocked but determined. Together, they plan a desperate counterstrike. But before they can finish, Doom arrives. Xavier tries to stop him. It isn't enough. This is where the universe starts collapsing into pure insanity. Heroes fall faster than hope can rise. Doom crushes the Thunderbolts. He destroys the Fantastic Four. He topples Wakanda. Ant-Man's quantum tech becomes meaningless against him. And then in the quiet wreckage of a graveyard, Peter Parker sees something he never expected. Tony Stark. Except it isn't Tony. It's Doom in disguise, testing Peter's grief. Peter reaches out. MJ warns him. Doom disappears. This moment becomes the wound that drives Peter forward. He joins the new Avengers, a team formed from what little remains. Spider-Man, Thor, Wanda, Deadpool, and a young version of Iron Man from another timeline. They charge into battle against Doom, and the fight is apocalyptic. Wanda unleashes chaos. Thor summons storms. Deadpool mocks Doom mid-fight. Even the alternate Tony tries to uphold the legacy of the man who saved him. But Doom is relentless. One by one, the heroes fall. And when he turns to Spider-Man, something in Doom snaps. He wants to break the boy who loved Tony Stark. Peter dies in Doom's hands. And Thor screams as if the universe itself has been ripped apart. Doom declares Spider-Man's death the final nail in the coffin of Stark's legacy. But the multiverse isn't done yet. A drop of black liquid rolls across the battlefield, the Venom symbiote. It slides toward Peter's body. It merges with him, and his eyes snap open. Spider-Man rises from death, now fused with rage and symbiote fury. His black suit pulses with alien energy. Doom recoils, not in fear, but in recognition that this is no longer the kid he killed. This is a force reborn. Their clash is seismic. Their fury shakes worlds. Doom, weakened from endless battles, finally realizes the impossible. He might lose. So he flees, swearing the fight isn't over. And in the wake of his retreat, the remaining heroes realize the terrifying truth. Spider-Man didn't just come back stronger. He came back changed. Thor and Loki continue their multiversal journey, trying to track Peter and Doom across collapsing timelines. They gather what remains of the Avengers scattered across universes. Strange and Thanos prepare their own assault. The X-Men assemble under Xavier's weakened leadership. And lurking at the edge of existence is Bob, the unexpected anomaly who once overpowered Doom, forcing him to unleash a darker form just to survive. Bob evolves. Doom evolves. And their next confrontation threatens to rewrite the laws of the multiverse. The war isn't just coming. It has already begun. Doom isn't a villain anymore. He isn't even Tony Stark anymore. He's something worse. A god forged from sacrifice, betrayal, and hell itself. And now he's hunting for the one person who keeps standing between him and total control, Peter Parker. Spider-Man, reborn in black, carrying both hope and fury, chased across universes by a man who used to be his mentor. And as Doom grows stronger, as the multiverse thins to a breaking point, every hero across every timeline must decide whether to stand with Spider-Man or fall to Doom's new world order. And that brings me to the end of this chapter, but not the end of the story. Because Doom is still out there. Spider-Man is rising into something we've never seen before. And the multiverse war that decides the fate of every hero is only just beginning. If you enjoyed diving into this dark reimagining of Tony Stark and Dr. Doom's origins, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, consider giving us super thanks up to $20. It helps more than you know. I'm Liam Harrison, this is MovieCast, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for part 4. What if the multiverse didn't collapse because of Kang, but because of something far more calculated, far more methodical, and far more inevitable? What if Loki's sacrifice, the temporal loom's destruction, and every branching reality blinking out of existence were not random cosmic failures, but the opening moves of a far larger design? That's the question I dive into today as we explore the rise of Emperor Doom. Welcome back to MovieCast, hosted by me, Liam Harrison, where I break down the wildest theories, hidden storylines, and clues that shape the next era of superhero storytelling. And right from the start, I want to take you into a moment that I believe marks the exact point everything changes. Picture the Avengers in their central base, surrounded by holographic visions of dying futures. Incursions tear across existence, like lightning cracking through stained glass. Every timeline ends in ruin, until the lights suddenly flicker out. Metallic footsteps echo, slow, heavy, deliberate. When the lights return, Dr. Doom stands before them, his mask gleaming with a faint contour eerily similar to Tony Stark's face. And in that unsettling silence, he offers the one solution no one expected. If you want to save the multiverse, you will need Kang. In that moment, everything freezes. I imagine Thor tightening his grip on Stormbreaker while Hulk leans forward like he's ready to tear Doom in half. Even Sam stares at him as if Doom just spoke the unthinkable aloud. But Doom doesn't flinch. He steps deeper into the center of the room as though he belongs there, as though the world itself bends around his presence. Then he says something even more disturbing. Not just any Kang. You need that Kang. The one who ruled the quantum realm. The one who fell into his own multiversal engine core. And when Ant-Man's face drains of color, the Avengers finally understand this isn't Doom bluffing. Scott steps forward, voice shaky, and repeats the exact phrase Kang whispered to him before the final fight in Quantumania. If the multiverse is to be saved, you must get me out, no matter what. The room goes dead quiet. None of them want to believe a word of this. But the idea digs its claws in fast, because every hologram around them shows the same thing. Doom is coming. And maybe the only one who knew how to stop it was the conqueror they already killed. This is where Doom reveals his first real move, and I love how chillingly calm he is about it. He activates a projection of collapsing timelines, shrinking branches, and reality breaking apart like burning paper. He explains that this Kang variant wasn't just a tourist in the quantum realm. He mastered it, bent it, re-engineered it. The secrets he learned there weren't theoretical. They were practical tools built from unstable physics no one else even dared to approach. And Doom claims Kang was the only being who truly grasped how the multiverse was unraveling. Now, I imagine the Avengers looking at each other with that awful realization settling in. Doom might be right. They don't trust him, of course, but they trust the evidence in front of them even less. So when Doom proposes traveling into the quantum realm to retrieve the Conqueror's remains, the room shifts from hostility to reluctant acceptance. It's a decision none of them want to make, and one that every fiber of their instincts tells them to reject. Yet they agree. And with that agreement, the first irreversible step of Doom's plan goes into motion. While none of them realize he's already thinking 10 moves ahead. Their descent into the quantum realm feels like entering a living hallucination, an ecosystem of spiraling geometry and impossible physics. And as I picture this sequence, I can feel how each danger is tailored to target the team's weaknesses. Doctor Strange becomes trapped in looping moments, arguing with versions of himself that splinter off like broken reflections. Thor wades through collapsing energy storms that feel like dying stars swirling around his armor. Even pathways they walk on glitch out of existence, forcing them to improvise with seconds to spare. What truly strikes me is how Kang's dormant defenses react to their presence, as if his lingering consciousness recognizes intruders. Eventually, they reach a lifeless, frozen pocket universe, silent, suspended, untouched by time itself. And there, floating motionless but perfectly preserved, lies Kang the Conqueror. Scott immediately recognizes him, and Doom kneels beside the corpse with almost clinical fascination. Doom announces that the radiation from the multiversal engine killed him, but preserved the body, meaning Kang can be revived. When the team transports his body back to the TVA, they have no idea this is the moment the scales tip completely in Doom's favor. When they arrive, the TVA is moments away from collapse, timelines stuttering like broken film reels. I imagine alarms blaring, agents sprinting, the loom surging erratically. But Doom doesn't panic. He announces with unsettling composure that they must travel into the TVA's past, specifically to the moment before the loom exploded and before Loki shouldered the burden of becoming the guardian of all timelines. Mobius hesitates, confused and unnerved, but the Avengers have now crossed a line where turning back feels impossible. They trust Doom, not because they believe in him, but because admitting they're wrong would mean admitting they resurrected the greatest threat in existence for nothing. So the time doors open, and the team steps into the TVA's earlier era, one still intact, one still hopeful, one where Loki stands at a crossroads trying to understand what the loom truly is. When Loki first sees them arrive with Doom at their side and Kang's corpse in tow, he's stunned. He knows instantly this moment shouldn't exist. But as Strange begins explaining the multiversal decay and Scott confirms Kang's terrifying message, Loki realizes that destiny is warping again, and his choices are about to shape something far bigger than he ever imagined. The tension here is incredible to imagine. Loki staring at the body of his greatest fear while Doom delivers the key argument. The temporal loom's threads can reconnect Kang's temporal signature and reactivate his essence. Loki, burdened by the knowledge of what Kang variants can do, hesitates. You can almost feel the weight of every choice he made leading up to becoming the god of stories pressing down on him. But Doom's manipulation is flawless. He frames the resurrection not as a threat, but as necessity. One last desperate attempt to salvage an unraveling multiverse. And eventually, Loki agrees. The chamber chosen for Kang's resurrection glows with raw temporal energy, the loom casting long golden beams across the walls. Kang's body is set into place at the core, where temporal strands begin weaving through him like threads of cosmic electricity. The room trembles. Time bends inward, and then Kang breathes. His eyes burn with blue temporal fire as he rises, bewildered but alive. Doom steps forward, greeting him not as an enemy, but as a co-architect of salvation. And in a moment that shocks everyone, Kang doesn't attack. He sides with Doom, accepting his role in this new multiversal gambit. Now Doom reveals the part of his plan that sounds benevolent but is built entirely on deception. He tells them that Loki's ascension to the god of stories is a trap, a cage disguised as destiny. Doom claims that the sacred story limits Loki, prevents true freedom, and keeps the multiverse in a perpetual cycle of collapse and reconstruction. And he offers an alternative, building a new multiversal engine, one capable of protecting reality without imprisoning Loki at the end of time. The brilliance of this plan lies in how perfectly it speaks to each character's desires. Loki wants freedom. Kang wants purpose. The Avengers want stability. The TVA wants order. Doom positions himself as the one who understands everyone's struggle, and the only one with the intellect to solve it all. And so, united under a false banner of salvation, they commit everything, resources, power, trust, to Doom's grand design. What none of them see is that each step they take is another cog in Doom's hidden machine. Every role assigned to them is a calculated misdirection. They believe they are shaping a new future, but Doom is shaping them. When the multiversal engine activates, the room shakes with cosmic pressure. At first, the team expects stability, the timeline straightening, reality snapping back into harmony. But the opposite happens. The branches twist violently, folding in on themselves as if rewritten by an unseen hand. Doctor Strange realizes the truth first, shouting that this isn't stabilization, it's reconstruction. Doom steps forward into the maelstrom, his cloak whipping in the raging cosmic winds. He finally drops the facade, revealing that the entire mission was never about restoring the multiverse, only selecting the fragments he needed to build a new one. His voice echoes like a cosmic decree as he announces, "You did not save the multiverse, you delivered it to me." Outside, universes collapse and fuse together, forming a single massive world made from the ruins of infinite realities. A planet forged in chaos and ambition. Battleworld. Doom raises his hands, commanding creation itself, reshaping existence by sheer will. "This is my universe now," he declares. "Born from my vision, I am no longer victor. I am Emperor Doom." And in that moment, every hero present understands the horrifying truth. Doom didn't outfight them. He outplayed them from the very beginning. The Avengers stare across this newly forged landscape, floating islands of broken timelines, shattered cities from alternate worlds, and a sky stitched with leftover cosmic scars. Kang, for once, is speechless. Loki trembles with fury, betrayed at a level even he never anticipated. And the Avengers can't shake the haunting familiarity of Doom's faceplate, its resemblance to Tony Stark now feeling like a cruel twist of the knife. They realize they handed Doom every tool he needed, trust, access, the resurrection of a conqueror, because they were too desperate to see the trap. Kang whispers a single word that seals their fate. Battleworld. The final war is coming. And as the camera pulls back in my mind's eye, I can see Battleworld suspended in an endless cosmic void, with Doom seated upon a throne forged from the remains of universes he destroyed. His rule has begun, not through conquest, but through manipulation so intricate that even gods and conquerors bow to it. Fade to black. Avengers Doomsday. End. Then a final promise. Avengers Secret Wars, coming soon. What rises next is the war to reclaim existence itself. And that, in my view, is the terrifying brilliance behind the rise of Emperor Doom. A villain who doesn't just punch harder or think faster, he rewrites the playing field entirely. Everything we saw, every sacrifice the heroes made became the scaffolding for Doom's empire. And the scariest part is how believable this path feels, how naturally the pieces fall together when Doom guides them in just the right directions. I love this theory because it reframes the multiverse collapse not as chaos, but as orchestration. An elegant symphony conducted by the only man who believes he deserves to shape reality itself. But this is just the beginning. Battleworld sets the stage for alliances that shouldn't exist, betrayals no one expects, and the ultimate showdown between Doom and the true forces of cosmic balance. I cannot wait to dive deeper into how Secret Wars could unfold, what roles characters might play, and how the MCU could give us the most ambitious conflict in its entire history. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support MovieCast directly, consider dropping a super thanks of $20. It helps us keep these deep dive theories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.